What's going on, you guys? TBR here, back yet again with another King of Fighters Allstar video. And in today's video, we will be doing another PVE Fighter Spotlight, this time taking a look at SS Marie Rose in all things PVE. But before we get into it, if you're new here and you enjoy daily King of Fighters Allstar content, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe. Now, of course, starting off with the typing and the leadership ability, SS Marie Rose is going to be a green balance fighter with a leadership ability that increases balance type fighters' attack by 45% and their power charge rate by 20%. So overall, the leadership ability here cannot be understated in its importance for things such as time attack. In the past, before this collaboration was introduced, balance type fighters were in a really awkward position for things such as time attack, lacking really good leadership options, but now that we have this character along with the Angel of Paradise Neo Tengu, balance type fighters are in the best place they've ever been for time attack, and this character is going to be a big help there for them. So overall, a very important leadership skill in my opinion. Now when it comes to the cores, she does have a 30% power charge rate increase, with an increase to her critical rate of 2.4%. She's also going to have an increase to her attack, as well as decreasing damage received from defense type enemies. She's also going to have an increase to her penetration here, so a little bit of a mixed bag, not much there to talk about. When we talk about her exclusive cores, she's going to have Small Devilish Servant that decreases damage received by 75% when she's attacked if her HP is 50%, with a 50% chance to stun the attacker for 3 seconds when attacked on a cooldown of 10 seconds, and then she gains 20% power when her combo count is 10 or higher on a cooldown of 10 seconds. Then on the final Blooming Bloody Rose, she is going to reset her strike active skill cooldowns upon landing her S1 on a cooldown of 15 seconds, and deal Starlight damage equal to 80% of her attack to the target upon landing an attack, and then she has the exclusive Dead or Alive cores. So overall, these cores are not too shabby whatsoever. Anytime you have a character that can deal any type of dot upon landing in a skill or an attack, that is typically going to be really good for their overall damage output. She has some resets, some really good power charge, and overall a really nice set of cores. Now when we move over to the skills, the first big thing that you're going to want to point out with any SS character is going to be that extra long awakening rotation. This is going to be something that is going to help her out quite a bit, especially in the places you would normally see her, such as Guild Raid. But when we take a look at the skills, her S1 is going to give her Hyper Armor with a PvP exclusive of disabling the target's active skills for 4 seconds upon landing a skill, and it's an interrupt. Overall, this is going to be very, very good for Championship, where this character is tier 1, but not anything crazy for PvE. On the S2, she does have Super Armor, as well as increasing the target's damage received by 26% for 7 seconds upon landing a skill, and this is also an interrupt. So overall, she has Hyper and Super Armor respectively on the S1 and the S2 with an interrupt, so that is going to help her out quite a bit in PvE. Now when we take a look finally at the S3, she's going to increase her penetration by 1400 for 7 seconds, increase her attack by 35% for 7 seconds, and deal radiant damage for 7 seconds. So this is going to be her main damage output skill for things such as radiant damage and Starlight, as well as being coupled with that core that we previously mentioned. This character is going to do a very good job in any Guild Raid mode where you're going to need Starlight, and makes an excellent Starlight character for most people. So that is going to be the skills and the cores. Overall, pretty good stuff. Now the final thing to talk about when it comes to her skills is of course going to be her 3PG cards effect, and that is going to recover 8% of her HP when used. Not anything crazy, at least by comparison to some of the other effects we've seen on some of these characters' cards, but overall pretty nice to have that extra HP recovery in things such as Immortals or Guild Raid. Now for the stones, my recommendation is pretty simple. Just go for straight attack stones from the Dead or Alive 6 collaboration, and then if you are lucky enough to have any of the Star or Moon stones, I just recommend going with Starlight increases. That'll help her overall damage output, but overall that is going to be the kit. Let's take a look at the skills more in depth now, and take a look at what makes this character tick. Now when we take a look at the skills, we'll start out with the S1, and with the S1 this is of course going to be her source of Hyper Armor that is paired with an interrupt. This is a pairing that we have seen more and more of recently, and one that you do like to see for things such as PvE. This is also going to have off the ground capability, but do keep in mind that it is going to be a fairly close range skill and will not have full screen capabilities, so keep that in mind. Now moving on to the S2 is going to also be an interrupt skill, this one with super armor and off the ground as well. It's also going to increase the enemy's damage received, but do keep in mind, just like with the S1, this is also not going to be a full screen capable skill. So with all of these skills with this character, you are going to notice that she likes to be up close and personal, so you'll need to make sure that you are compensating accordingly, otherwise you will whiff on your skills if you're just throwing them out there. Now finally, moving on to the S3. The S3 is noticeably the shortest range skill on her kit. However, SS Marie Rose does have quite a few perks on this skill, which include increasing her own attack, applying radiant damage, and adding penetration to her, and is also an off the ground, but just like all of her skills, again, very short range, so this is a character that is going to want to be very close to her enemies in order to be doing full damage. And finally, taking a look at the finishers, the 3PG is going to be on the short end at around 7 seconds, but is full screen and does offer interrupt when it comes to Nightmare Geese's Ground Aura, but only for the SS version of the character, and the core finisher is very short at around 4 seconds. So those are going to be the finishers and the kit. Let's go ahead and take a look at Marie Rose in practice. Now when we take a look at general mobs and bosses, overall SS Marie Rose is going to be a balanced type character, so you can't expect her to be outputting the amount of damage that you might be used to when you're using some of the best attack type characters in the game. However, she does have quite a few perks here that do make her really viable and actually very good for this type of mode. The biggest thing, of course, that we already talked about is going to be her leadership ability in things such as time attack being invaluable for characters that are going to be balanced types. However, when it comes to using her in just general mobbing, this character has phenomenal XY axis on her skills. Now, of course, this means that she is going to be able to group her mobs together extremely well, and will make up for the fact that she does lack a full screen ability in most cases. As far as her overall damage output against these two types of modes, as you can see from this Hall of Elements exchange here, her overall damage output is extremely strong for a balanced type fighter. And again, if you are trying to compare her against the top tier, top meta attack type picks, then of course you are going to find her lacking in that regard, because this character is not designed to be a nuke. Therefore, you will notice that she isn't necessarily going to one-tap every single mob out there, and it is worth noting that her skill animations are on the longer end. So these are things that you will notice. However, she does cancel her skills extremely well, so this is going to make up for the fact that those skills are very long. And when it comes to the relative difference between her and a lot of these attack types with her overall damage output, do keep in mind that as a balanced type, she is still outputting way more damage than a lot of the regular balanced types that we've had in the game for quite a while now, which means that as a character that isn't necessarily designed to be a damage nuke, she is still going to be able to output really respectable damage, and on her extra long awakening rotation, especially in things such as Guild Raid, it makes a huge difference. Now, when it comes to PVAI, there's a couple of things that I really like about this character. Of course, she does have that double interrupt to lead off her skills, so that is going to be something that is going to help her out a ton in PVAI, as the AI really doesn't have much of an answer to interrupts most of the time, and this character in general for any type of PvP scenario is going to be absolutely a monster. In fact, for those of you who are unaware, this character is top tier and tier 1 for things such as Championship, so overall in PVAI and any PvP scenario, this character is really able to shine as her entire kit is put to use. Now, admittedly, when we start to talk about Immortals, SS Marie Rose really is relegated to just being mostly a filler character for now. There's really not a whole lot of instances in the current Immortal pool where this character is necessarily going to be a top tier pick. However, she is definitely a respectable one, and one that you can get by with a one team on a lot of Immortals with, especially if you couple her with some of the other Dead or Alive 6 characters and give her a leadership buff. Part of this is due to the fact that she does have very generous power charge on her cores, which is going to help her out quite a bit in being able to fire off her finishers. She's able to recover her HP on her 3PG card, which is going to keep her in the long fights in Immortals, as well as being a character that does have somewhat decent damage for a balance type. But really, until we get a Starlight based Immortal, this character really isn't anything that is designed for the current Immortal pool. So if you're really expecting a top tier character for this, I hate to break it to you, but she is not going to be that. However, I would go as far as to say that she is very serviceable here. The biggest thing is really just going to come down to the fact that she isn't necessarily going to slot into a lot of teams very easily, and she's also going to be lacking in overall damage output by comparison to some of the attack types that you would normally be using here. So while you could use her in these types of modes right now, I do think that she is more of an investment into the future. If down the road we end up getting a Starlight Immortal, this character is really going to be able to shine and show her true colors here. But as it sits right now, the biggest reason why you would ever be bringing her along with you would be to be using her on a team with other Dead or Alive characters. Maybe if you have the Angel of Paradise Honoka and you're wanting to use her as the leader and then have Marie Rose under that leadership ability, then you will get use out of her in that regard. And it is also worth noting that her leadership ability does make balance types more viable against some of these Immortals if you really want to go that route, but overall, this isn't a character that is tier 1 against these types of things. Arguably, the bread and butter of this character, if it's not going to be PvP or PVAI, is of course going to be Guild Raid, and this is really where people are going to get the most value out of SS Marie Rose. And SS Marie Rose as a Starlight user is going to be a bit of a Swiss Army knife here, but she is going to be a character that is definitely one that should be on the radar of anybody who missed out on some of the top tier Starlight picks out there. So if you're somebody who missed out on SS Kyo, you missed out on SS Athena, you missed out on Boss Syndrome Chrysalid, then this is going to be one of the next best bets. Marie Rose has a lot of things going for her here. While her damage output isn't necessarily obnoxiously high, one of the things about her that is really good in Guild Raid is going to be her overall shield shred ability. This is going to be partially due to the fact that she is dealing Starlight damage upon a hit, but also because of that Starlight damage on her S3 being in the form of radiant damage. She is going to be able to reliably keep the dot on characters such as Guild Raid Omega Rugal or Nightmare Geese, and be able to do a really good job at being a shield shredder for a team that needs the option for Starlight. So again, if you're somebody who missed out on these top tier limited banner characters, then really this is going to be the biggest reason why you would consider this character, in my opinion, outside of her leadership ability. So what I would suggest to you guys, if you really need a good Starlight user, really try to get as many memories for her as possible and build her up. Even at Awakening level 3, this character is going to be able to help a competent team get a 1 key on Omega Rugal, and you'll be able to do so very easily. So overall, great stuff there. When we talk about Nightmare Geese, of course, just like any really reliable Starlight user, this character is going to be able to net you an easy 1 key on hard mode against Nightmare Geese, and it is worth noting that this character can interrupt his ground aura with her 3PG finisher, just like all of the SS iterations in this Dead or Alive collaboration. But also keep in mind that this means that her Angel of Paradise counterpart, even though they share the exact same 3PG finisher, just like all of the Angel of Paradise characters, cannot interrupt this ground aura. So keep that in mind, you guys, something that is definitely of note. But overall, this character is going to be able to do a really reliable job against Nightmare Geese in hard mode, just based on the fact that she is going to have really reliable applications of her dots, and she has that extra long awakening rotation. But another thing that really makes her nice here is of course going to be the fact that she can recover her HP with her 3PG finisher, which is going to save her from a lot of scenarios where she might be taking a little bit too much damage against this boss, and that can be something that comes up for a lot of these characters in these solo runs. So overall, if you want to solo with her, you can easily do so and get a 1 key, but Guild Raid is definitely where this character shines. So to summarize, overall SS Marie Rose has her merits and is a very, very good character in her own right. She is going to be a top tier meta character for things such as Championship and PVAI, as well as being an excellent step down pick from some of the top Starlight users in the game for things such as Guild Raid. But really I think that where she is going to be the most important as a leader for balanced type fighters, and this is really where you need to consider this character's performance as well as her importance to your account the most, in my opinion, because we are lacking for really good balanced type leaders in the game. So you'll definitely want to build her up, especially if you're not planning on getting the Angel of Paradise Neo Tengu for that same role in things such as time attack. But overall, this character, while she is really, really good, I don't think that she is going to be destroying your account if you don't get lucky with this Lucky Chance event, because I know that unfortunately a lot of people out there have had a lot of hard beats with this thing. So don't feel like if you do not end up being able to build her, you're missing out with something that you can't replace down the road. I do think that there will be plenty of Starlight options that will be introduced or reintroduced if they decide to rerun some of these past characters that you would be able to get the same performance out of, or definitely a lot better depending on what that character is. But I do think that she is a luxury character that if you're able to pick her up, you're definitely going to appreciate the fact that you have her. So overall, you guys, those are my opinions on this character. I definitely enjoy her and think she is wonderful, but I don't think that this is a character you should throw your phone against a wall over if you end up getting unlucky with her memories. But let me know in the comment section down below what you think. Hopefully you found it informative. Like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
Opinions.